Mathieu Choinière is reportedly moving to LAFC, returning to MLS after 1 year in Europe with Grasshopper Zurich, which didn't quite go to plan. I saw him play against FC Lausanne Sport. Well, he didn't play, he warmed up, and I saw him sit on the bench for 90 minutes in Switzerland back in October. But LAFC, of course, owns a large stake in Grasshopper, so it makes sense from that perspective. But Choinière only left CF Montreal last year. Is LAFC a step up on CF Montreal? I think it is a significant step up being with a top MLS club. And if he plays, I think this is a great move for Mathieu Choinière as well.
Yeah, I honestly think it could be as well. I mean, obviously they're a team with high aspirations. They're a team that is expecting to have a long playoff run, and they're a team with like a lot of players that I think raise each other's level. So if he had gone from Montreal to LAFC, we'd be talking about this as a win for Mathieu Choinière. He's had a 1 year break with some European experience. He's also got more experience internationally with the national team. I think overall he's improved as a player. He needs the consistency, the opportunity in the minutes. He didn't get that in Switzerland. He should get that at LAFC. You look at the way that their midfield has kind of changed, and I know Marky Delgado has been a big part of that midfield this season. But they're a team that's looking to they're retooling on the fly, obviously, right? I don't want to say reinvent themselves, but I think that they do want to kind of recreate a new image of what this challenging LAFC side is, and I think the fact that they see Choinière as a piece to take them to the next level is a real confidence booster for him, and a statement that it's okay that he had a poor season in what we would call a middle tier league, Alex, in Switzerland.
Yeah, this is a funny one because it's a move that makes so much sense for Choinière and for LAFC. Yet you still can't help but laugh at it because you look at the way it all came about. The
Mm.
fact that they didn't throw Jam straight to Montreal last year to get him. That he had this Swiss adventure that, in hindsight, just aged so weirdly. Because again, you can't say it fully was poorly because of his injuries, etc. And this LAFC move might not have happened given the links they had with Grasshopper. But
Hmm.
yeah, you can't help think of a lot of the people that doubted this move. I think at the time, if we were to go back, one of the things I said was just this move only makes sense if it's like a gateway, if it's a gateway to bigger things. If you're, going from a Grasshopper and then a few years later you're in a higher team in Belgium or Netherlands of the sort. So the fact that he's in a roundabout way ended up back in MLS makes you laugh. But at the end of the day, it is one of the top clubs in MLS. It's a team that's ambitious, that's gonna give him what he'll crave on the field, but even off the field. Like, we have to remember, this all started like he seemed to have a desire to stay in Montreal, and this all started with contract negotiations going badly with them, maybe not ponying up what he felt it was worth. So for Choinière, exciting move, but definitely not the 12 months I was expecting from him when he first made this move to Switzerland.
And is it a sign that maybe more Canadians should embrace MLS as their kind of career destination? I think we've seen, guys like Jacob Schaffelberg do it. I don't know necessarily what kind of ceiling Jacob Schaffelberg would have in terms of a move to Europe, but is this, maybe indicative on not every Canadian has to go to a European league, and that MLS is actually a good option for these Canadians, Brendan?
No, I don't think that MLS should be the only option for Canadians or Americans. I think that there's a lot of examples on both sides of the border of players who maybe not had tremendous success or even reached the potential that we all would have expected. Think of Lucas Cavallini, but I think overall their development and their playing experience is better because they had a taste of it elsewhere. I think that Cavallini brought something different to the Whitecaps than someone who had only ever played in MLS. I think that Jacob Schaffelberg is in this kind of closing window of opportunity to go and have an international experience and perhaps come back to MLS and have a long career and play into his mid or late 30s, which I think all players would aspire to and would hope to have, long careers. I really, really do think that one of the things that the United States men's national team at the moment is missing, and to a lesser extent at the moment the Canadian team is missing, is the opportunity for these players to get more foreign experiences. And the fact that we seem to be so limited to it being exclusively European, I don't think it has to be. In getting to see these Brazilian teams at the FIFA Club World Cup, I would love that to be a pathway. I would love if Canadian players, and maybe Ishmael Kone is not the right person given the seeming struggles that he's had in Europe, but someone with a high potential ceiling that we seem to think, someone like that, I would love to see, what a year or 2 years in Brazil in their early 20s could do for their game. And if they come back at 24 and become an MLS star, okay, great. But I don't, in general, I don't think you should have the same girlfriend for your entire run of university. It's kind of the same thing with these players. I don't think that North American players should exclusively play in MLS for their entire career, even if they end up having 80 caps and a couple of World Cup appearances because of it. I think there's value to having a foreign club playing experience, Alex.
From a personal standpoint, like 1000%, like I'm a big fan of, like, that's a huge debate they always have in England, right? Of guys not going abroad enough, coaches and players. Like, I agree. Like, yeah, from a mental standpoint, you learn so much in a new country, new language, no matter if it's
Mhm.
South America, European, etc. But if I'm wearing my CanMNT lens in this discussion, there is also value to having guys in a familiar league where they're familiar with each other. Like a lot of base of national teams, you do have a core of guys who have kind of come up in a league. Even in the case of teams of like Argentina and Brazil, who have so many Euro-based stars, there is still this common lived experience of they all came through the Argentine league together. They kind of have a similar style, a similar culture that maybe can be harder for some of these guys who come from quote unquote different pathways. And I think that's something the US is struggling with now, where they've got a lot of these dual nationals who maybe haven't come through MLS. And it's just led to this bit of a, you know, different reality where, with Canada, so many of the guys have kind of come through North America and it's kind of helped them in a way. So I do wonder from a national team if there is value. And I think continuing to use that national team lens, I raise to you, I think it's three off the top of my head. It's Jaden Nelson. Guy went to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't maybe go to a big of a jump in Europe. He went to equivalent league. You can argue in terms of coefficients, all that in Norway, and he didn't really get a look in the second German division. Now he's back here and he's doing good. Theo Corbiano, another one. Guy never really found his footing at the right level in Europe. Come to MLS and he's resurrected his potential national team hopes with how good he's been. And another one is Richie Larea, a guy who made the big move, but it
Mhm.
wasn't right for him. He's come back and he's been, been good for Canada off the back of that. What it does show with MLS as it is, there's always this focus of get out of MLS, get out of MLS, get out of MLS. And that should be there. I think it's good. You want guys, I'm looking at the Schaffelbergs, the Ali Ahmeds, all these guys in that range. I absolutely think they should push to do that.
Mhm.
But I think what this Choinière experience shows, there shouldn't just be a push to get out to get out. If you're playing, if you're in a good situation, is it really better to go to the Swiss league when the Swiss league, you can argue, is worse than MLS, right? Like you've seen examples, or at least beyond the Basels. You see how good Shaqiri's been, right? This year, that's maybe one of the arguments in that favor. But of course, if it's a top 5 league, if it's a club where you play, if it's the right environment, a Belgian league, like the Buchanans, like the other guys have gotten, because there's starting to be countless examples where there's not a problem with playing in MLS. And there needs to be a balance of you want these guys to push, but you want it to be the right moves, like with the Bombito. He's, I think, the schoolboy of what you want out of a move to Europe. Top 5 league, good fit, boom. Whereas, yeah, you don't want these Choinières. And even you could throw Kone into that now, where we've seen 3-4 years on from his move, it hasn't been as good as, say, an Alistair Johnson's move has been, right?
I think about 3 American guys that stand out, and yeah, Nelson is, maybe too young to be put into this category, regardless of the success Nelson has. I think if Jaden Nelson has more success and continues to elevate in Vancouver, he gets another European opportunity to a bigger league. Maybe it's a middle team in France, but I do think that he can have another European opportunity, whereas someone like Jonathan Osorio never got that and missed that window. Like he's not getting that now. But Josie Altidore, Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley, all of them started in MLS. All of them left very young. All of them left with, a lot of potential, but kind of an unclear trajectory. They all had multiple clubs and played in different leagues, and all came back to MLS like kind of as stars and finished their career there. Whether you say that okay, they cashed in or they settled, regardless, they had a lot of success in MLS. I think that might be the model for some of these Canadian players now. So like maybe Choinière is like a little early to say that, but maybe we're talking about that for Kone in 3 or 4 years. I would hope, because I would like to see him in Europe a little bit longer. But that could kind of be maybe this next evolution of the CanMNT MLS model, if you will.
Well, even to that point, like those guys left a very different MLS. Like when Michael
Mhm.
Bradley was leaving MLS in, what was it, 2008 or 7 or whatever, like he was leaving an MLS that was maybe what, a top 50 league in the world, if that.
Sure.
Like I do think the fact that MLS, there's legitimate arguments that it's on the cusp of being a top 10 league in the world, does shift these discussions. Like in 2008, you're taking a move from anywhere. Anyone's calling you, a Swiss league's calling you, you take it. Where I do think now there could be a bit more selectivity there, so to speak, with the changing nature of MLS. Because I think we kind of have this lens on where we forget how much the league has grown because we're around it so often and we see it. But it is at a point now where it's a lot different to the league that even 10 years ago when Altidore came back, right? Like it's even still such a different league from that.